Good morning, everybody. My name is Dumisa Ntsebeza. I practice law. My day job is that of practicing as an advocate at Pabasa Chambers here in Sentin. I have been appointed as an ombudsperson, generally known as Ombudsman. But to cut it short, I will call myself an ombud. Today marks the beginning of hearings on social justice and nation building, a project of Cricket South Africa. I greet all of you. And in order of your positions in the sporting game, I greet the following people: Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture in absentia, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee in absentia, the President of SACOC in absentia, the representatives of the Members' Council, the members of the Board of Cricket South Africa, the members of the Executive of Cricket South Africa, all cricket stakeholders and other strategic partners, past and present players, members of the media, cricket lovers and cricket fans, staff of Cricket South Africa, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, all protocols observed, I greet you. James Baldwin, whom most of us know as that indefatigable fighter for human rights and a great author and a great orator, once said the following: not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. As I say, this is a quote from James Baldwin, which speaks, incidentally, to the purpose of the social justice and nation building project. As the independent social justice and nation building ombudsman appointed by Cricket South Africa, I've been given a task to provide the board with a comprehensive report which contains recommendations of measures to prevent future incidences, hopefully, of racial and other forms of discrimination in cricket. I've been appointed for the purpose of contributing to truth and truth-telling, to healing and reconciliation in the game of cricket. And that will be done as part of Cricket South Africa's social justice and nation building project. The objectives of the social justice and nation building project include promoting unity and reconciliation by way of the following. 1, promoting equality in cricket. 2, determining the causes, the nature, and the extent of the racial discrimination and lack of transformation in cricket structures since unification, including the antecedents, the circumstances, the factors, and the context of such discrimination, as well as the perspectives of the victims and the motives and perspectives of the alleged perpetrators. And this will be done by way of conducting investigations and holding hearings and affording the alleged perpetrators the opportunity to respond to allegations leveled against them. And it will be the purpose of this entire exercise to also establish and make known the fate or whereabouts of victims, and by restoring the human and civil dignity of such victims, by granting them an opportunity to relate their own accounts of the violations. Let me pause here and say, those who know me to have been involved in the past in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and those who have been listening to some of the media statements I've been making in the run-up to this or to these hearings will know that I have even dubbed this exercise by Cricket South Africa, which must be commended, as a TRC of cricket. That said, let me leave it for the events to unfold, which in the fullness of time will determine whether I was right or I was off the mark in regarding the exercise that we are now going to go into in this week and the following weeks until we have completed and discharged our mandate, is or was, in fact, something that could be aligned or could be likened to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of old, and therefore the label TRC of cricket. As an ombudsman, I will apply some principles, and I will relate the principles which I consider to be principles that are necessary to observe in the discharge of my mandate. Accessibility, victim-centeredness, confidentiality, the promotion of the health and safety of participants, representativity, transparency, accountability, an open and honorable process, comprehensiveness, inclusivity, an educational and holistic approach, justice, fairness, respect, voluntariness, and flexibility. It is so that, for the most part, these are the things that are already common knowledge, because I believe that they are principles that are incorporated in the project's terms of reference. And those terms of reference, and I say this subject to correction, will or have been published in the website of Create South Africa. But in any event, whether they have been so published, in this public hearing, I have given an indication of what informs this entire exercise. Now, there are rules of procedure which we have passed by the board that is chaired, as we all know, by a lawyer and an activist juror, Mr. Lawson Naidoo. The rules of procedure have been crafted in the following way. The SJN hearings will be conducted in accordance with the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act number 4 of 2000, the so-called PEPUDA, or the Equality Act, the terms of reference, and obviously the rules of natural justice. The SJN hearings will be inquisitorial in nature. Participants will be given an opportunity to cross-examine in accordance with the terms of reference, but that will happen at the sole discretion of the Ombudsman. The SJN proceedings are not a criminal inquiry. And as a result, I will use the civil standard of proof in making my findings. I'll make findings based on a balance of probabilities, provided that where a factual dispute cannot be resolved without cross-examination, I may either allow cross-examination, limited cross-examination, or record the factual dispute without resolving it. I will consider materials of any nature, including submissions, opinions, statements, affidavits, oral testimonies under oath, or under affirmation for those who are not religiously inclined, academic materials, and so on. All that will be on the proviso that allegations against any individuals or organization or organizations shall be made only on affidavit or via oral testimony under oath or under affirmation. I will conduct the investigations through public hearings, whether on online platforms, as the situation is today, or otherwise. However, and this is critical, I may allow participants to give evidence anonymously so that that participant's identity is not revealed to the public, and that all will happen after I have exercised my mind and I have been persuaded that it is in the interests of the project and in the interests of truth revelation in a fair way for such testimony to be given in camera or in circumstances where the identity of the person who has persuaded me that he or she does not want to be revealed to the public is respected and is withheld from public consumption. All interviews and public hearings will be recorded so that there is a full record of the proceedings for those who might want to use them. Also, for purposes of guiding Advocate Ngele and I, when we sit down to write a report, which is a requirement of the terms of reference for the office of the Transformation Ombudsman. You will or will not know that there have been submissions made to the office of the Transformation Ombudsman. There was a call for these submissions to be made, and the office to date has received a total of 58 written submissions. We have received 11 written submissions from what we have called scene setters, who are all scheduled to address us this week. We have received 23 written submissions from players past and present who will address us in the following week. We have received 24 written submissions from cricket unions and interested organizations who will address us in the week of the 19th of July, 2021. I need to whet your appetite by giving very briefly an indication of the themes that we have noticed are traversed in the various submissions that we have received. Firstly, in this week, we will dedicate the week to stakeholders who will, to use a colloquial word that we have now used between us and the legal resource from worksmen's, about whom I will say something later on. Those stakeholders will set the scene by providing us with their general views on the history of cricket, the current state of cricket, and the extent to which discrimination or the advancement of designated groups has or has not played a part in the sport since the unity process in 1991. These stakeholders who will be traversing that theme consist of academics, journalists, writers, researchers, and so on. And they will provide a historical and contextual framework of cricket as we know it. In this week, we hope to be able to focus on the following themes. 1, putting in place new paradigms for understanding cricket's past. 2, integrating from the beginning, at every stage and in every area, the experiences of hitherto excluded black cricketers. 3, we will focus on women out of a gender ghetto and into the mainstream of cricket history. We will concentrate also on contextualized organizational history for all 11 national cricket bodies in South Africa from 1890 to the present. We will call knowledgeable people who will deal thematically about narratives and binaries, master narratives and binaries. And their job will be to say, beyond those, what are new ways of narrating the past? We will deal with the theme through testimonies of these stakeholders and experts on issues of governance and leadership in cricket. We will deal with the social purpose and transformation insofar as it affects the game of cricket. We shall look and examine the role of committed leadership at all levels of the game. And all of that will take place through those who will testify before us. We will traverse through these witnesses mentorship and support and the degree to which that has been manifest or has not been manifest. You will allow us to also deal with remuneration in the women Proteas team. We will also, through these witnesses, deal with transformation with the women Protea team. We will also explore the experiences of career progression for all those who have chosen cricket as a career path in South Africa. We will explore the perceptions of individuals and institutions that had provided support or not in the process of developing cricketing talent, particularly in the Black African communities. We will explore the perceptions of low representation of Black African cricketers in South Africa, including factors influencing this low representation, should the evidence be very clear that this is so. Hence the use of the word explore. I want to pause here and emphasize this because this is a theme that I emphasized ever so often in some of the media interviews that I've heard. Certainly the Office of the Transformation Ombuds and the advisors have emphasized that they are not coming here with predetermined views and conclusions. Obviously, living as we do in this country, we have individual views. But this is a very serious matter which calls for fairness on those who will be hearing evidence and leading evidence. And therefore, there is a requirement on those who will be looking at the evidence to keep an open mind. And I pledge that the Office of the Transformation Ombudsman will keep that open mind. But as I have always said, it is so too that transformation means different things to different people. And I think through this exercise, we will be able to garner all the views about what transformation means, why positions taken by those who will be telling us about transformation are the positions they take, what the evidence is in society, and hopefully those objectives and purpose about which I spoke at the beginning of this monologue will have helped us to come to a just and equitable conclusion on this topic of transformation. It's not a swear word, it's something that the South African public and South African society must deal with. We will also obtain, hopefully, insights into the players' perceptions of intrapersonal characteristics that may contribute to cricketing success. And last but not least, we will assess the perceived effectiveness of the introduction of an ethnic target policy. You will know that there are those who talk about so-called targets being thinly disguised ways of saying quotas will be set. I hold no view at this moment, but by the end of this entire exercise, I am sure all of us will have been educated. I close with a quotation from a former Minister of State, a stalwart of the South African struggle, somebody whose image I saw in the last few days among everything that is taking place in our country. And that is no less than Mr. Mac Maharaj. There is a quote from him that says the following: "To hide the horrors of the past in a collective amnesia would leave posterity with a legacy of festering guilt and unrelieved pain." I call on us as South Africans, through this project, to endeavor to make sure that we don't gain the dubious distinction of having been party to a collective amnesia by hiding such horrors of the past as there may have been in this game, because we want to leave posterity with a legacy of hope, of opportunity, and of progress for all of South Africa's people. may we be worthy of that venture. That is my opening address, and may I just take, before we go to the next item on the agenda, which I would think will be by the new board through its chairman, Comrade Lawson Naidoo. But I would like to introduce a resource that I have been using and that has been used by me and Advocate Ntsebeza, who is my legal advisor. But we have had a critical, as the Office of the Transformation Ombudsman, we have had an invaluable assistance as a resource from Worksmans, but in Worksmans we have the following who have helped the Office of the Transformation Ombudsman as a resource against whom or against which we pass some ideas, just so to make sure that in the discharge of our mandate, we are still on the right track. So if I mess things up, you must blame them for having not advised me properly. I talk about no one else other than Sandile July and Sandile Tom, both of them sitting next to my left, and both of them having been that kind of resource which I think this process needed. Advocate Ntsebeza, where are we in the process today?
Thank you, Advocate Ntsebeza. Thank you, Advocate Ntsebeza, for the opening address. We will now be addressed by the chairperson of the new Cricket South Africa Board, Mr. Lawson Naidoo. Thank you.
Indeed. All I dream of always
Ombudsman Advocate Dumisa Ntsebeza, Senior Counsel, or as you are often referred to, Brady, but we are going to be formal today. Let me recognize the involvement of the Minister of Sport in this initiative, Mr. Natim Tetwa, my fellow members of the Board of Cricket South Africa, the members of the media, all cricket stakeholders, SASCOC, the President and members of the Members' Council, the former and current cricketers, the fans of the game that we love so much, ladies and gentlemen. The preamble of the South African Constitution reads as follows: "We, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustices of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who have worked to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. We, therefore, through our freely elected representatives, adopt this Constitution as the supreme law of the Republic so as to heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. Improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person. Lay the foundations for a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of the people and in which every citizen is equally protected by law. Build a united and democratic South Africa that is able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations. It is the very spirit of this preamble to our social contract that should be a guiding lantern for all stakeholders in cricket in South Africa, as in every other sphere of our lives. It directs us towards the kind of society that we all aspire to, and it lays out the challenges we need to overcome to reach this objective. It means that we have to respect each other, not just as colleagues in the workplace, as neighbors, as domestic workers and employers, or as cricketers in a team. But we must also embrace others with respect for their full human dignity that the Constitution seeks to protect, promote, and fulfill. This is encapsulated in the universal concept of what we in South Africa refer to as Ubuntu. In my view, the social justice and nation building project is about restoring the principles of Ubuntu to the cricketing family, to acknowledge the injustices of the past, to heal the divisions of the past, and to lay the foundations for a better and more egalitarian and successful future for our game. The catalyst for this social justice and nation building initiative was the horrific murder of George Floyd by a police officer in Minneapolis in the USA. That brutal incident of institutional violence shocked the world and reignited the Black Lives Matter movement. It prompted leading cricket commentators, Michael Holding and Ebony Rainford Brent, to speak passionately and tearfully about the pain and brutality of racism, about the impact of centuries of oppression and exploitation on their psyche. As Michael Holding said, overcoming racism will take time and education, but we cannot ignore it any longer. In South Africa, the reaction from some quarters to Lungi Ngidi expressing his support for Black Lives Matter revealed the deep fissures in our society and cricketing fraternity. Racism, insidious as well as overt, revealed its ugly head. But it also created the space for other Black players and coaches to open up about their experiences. It was this cascade of emotion, anger, and revelation that led the then Cricket South Africa board to initiate this important process. The start of these hearings provides a key reset moment for CSA and cricket in general, and an opportunity to address the past failures. To quote from the terms of reference, which Advocate Ntsebeza has dealt with in some detail already, it includes that the Ombudsman has been appointed for the purpose of contributing to truth, healing, and reconciliation in the game of cricket as part of CSA's social justice and nation building project. This is no small task, and Advocate Ntsebeza and his team are entrusted with starting us on this critical journey. As the Board of Cricket South Africa, and the very first independent board that CSA has had, a board that was constituted just 3 weeks ago, we welcome and fully endorse this project and assure you, Mr. Ombudsman, of our full cooperation as you discharge your mandate. Let me state quite clearly and unequivocally at the outset that CSA fully supports the SJN initiative. Indeed, we regard it as one of the most important and significant projects to be undertaken in the 30 years of our existence as a unified cricket body. Before addressing some other issues, I think it would be useful for me to provide some background and context to the appointment of the Ombudsman and the mandate that he has been given. Cricket South Africa decided in August 2020 to appoint an Ombudsman for Transformation and Nation Building and announced Advocate Ntsebeza as the Ombudsman in September last year. As we all know, that board stepped down towards the end of October 2020, prompting the intervention of the Minister of Sport, Nathi Mthethwa, and which in turn led to the appointment of an interim board in November of last year. It was the old board that had set the original terms of reference for the Ombudsman prior to the interim board coming into office. Not surprisingly, the interim board was faced with a catalogue of crises to deal with, particularly with regard to stabilizing the functioning of Cricket South Africa. The SJN project unfortunately slipped down the list of priorities, though one member of the interim board was tasked with oversight of this project. It was towards the end of its tenure that the interim board engaged with the Ombudsman and identified risks in the terms of reference, particularly risks arising from submissions being made which implicate other persons and how those risks should be mitigated by ensuring a proper opportunity for those implicated to respond. The interim board postponed those hearings at the end of May 2021, and the Ombudsman thereafter made proposals for the revision of those terms of reference. Those revised terms of reference were in turn considered by the current board, and following a series of engagements with the Ombudsman's office, the board finalized and adopted the current terms of reference at a meeting on the 1st of July 2021, thereby ensuring that these hearings can commence today. The new Board of Cricket South Africa stands for strong governance, transparency, and accountability. And as such, we welcome the opportunity to understand the issues and challenges that may have plagued the game of cricket in the past in an open and transparent manner, and with a view of taking the insights and learnings into building a more inclusive sport that we can all be proud of. The terms of reference of the SJN hearings have been well publicized, but I would like to stress again some of the key areas that it addresses. The principal one is that the Ombudsman has been tasked with determining the causes, nature, and extent of racial discrimination in all areas of the operations and activities of Cricket South Africa. Allied to this will be recommendations by the Ombudsman to prevent future incidents of racial and other forms of discrimination from occurring. It is in that regard, while the process draws on the experience and lessons of the past, particularly from past players and coaches, it is very much a forward-looking project aiming to chart the future. It will no doubt be a painful process for those speaking openly and publicly about their experiences, and it may be an awkward and uncomfortable one for those against whom allegations are made. Despite this, it is a necessary process if we are to heal and maximize our future potential. As the final terms of reference make clear, there is a need to ensure fairness for all participants, both those who make allegations and those against whom allegations are made. For this reason, those against whom allegations are made will be given notice by the Ombudsman's office and will have an opportunity to respond to the allegations made against them. As the adage goes, you cannot know where you are going if you do not know where you come from. We therefore welcome this opportunity to deeply reflect on the difficult moments and experiences in our past as we look to the future. Much of the debate has centered specifically on racial discrimination so far, but I trust that gender discrimination will also form part of the process, as Advocate Ntsebeza has already emphasized. The new board is acutely aware of the vast gender imbalance on the board itself and in cricketing structures at all levels of the game. The board is going to consider a recommendation in the coming days that we establish a gender equality committee or some other structure of that nature to advise the board on how to tackle this distortion with urgency and practical ideas. I would also like to stress that the SJN initiative will be conducted with full operational and decision-making independence entrusted to the Ombudsman. Advocate Ntsebeza will provide progress reports to the board and a final report from him at the end of September 2021. The board will then give consideration to his report and any recommendations therein and determine its social justice and nation-building implementation plan as a priority. The Ombudsman's reporting to the board does in no way compromise the independence of the Ombudsman. Our role as the board and Cricket South Africa generally is to be good listeners with an open mind and without preconceived ideas. We undoubtedly have much to learn from this, which will inform our future strategies and interventions. CSA is providing full support to the Office of the Ombudsman in the provision of the necessary administrative, technical, and independent legal assistance. To our colleagues in the media in particular, I want to stress that it is not the intention of the board or of Cricket South Africa to comment publicly during the ongoing process of these hearings on the evidence that will emerge. Instead, we will allow the process to take its course without our comment and then consider the Ombudsman's report when it is provided to the board at the end of September. This approach will protect the independence, autonomy, and integrity of this project. We will act and respond to the recommendations made in the report in a manner that gives due consideration to all relevant factors, including the moral and equitable outcomes we seek, the commercial interests of Cricket South Africa, and the need to build the game of cricket in a manner that is accessible, equitable, and sustainable for all. Earlier, I spoke of the importance of this project. It should be abundantly clear to everybody that we cannot achieve our full potential as a cricketing nation if we do not give all those who want to play this wonderful game every opportunity to do so. It is not just a case of providing facilities, equipment, coaching, and other expertise. Players, coaches, and administrators must feel totally comfortable and at home in the environment in which they find themselves. The diversity with which we have been blessed must be viewed as a strength, not as a weakness. Many people made huge sacrifices to get cricket onto a democratic path of fairness for all, and we will be letting them down if we do not make sure that we drive transformation vigorously and fearlessly. Let us never forget that transformation is one of the 5 pillars on which Cricket South Africa is built. In this regard, I would like to repeat some of the remarks that I made on transformation in the course of my opening address to the board a couple of weeks ago. And I quote, "In terms of transformation specifically, I am in favor of a holistic approach that examines the foundations and organizational culture at all levels of the game. In everything we do, we must embrace and promote inclusivity and diversity to shift the culture from what is still perceived as a white-dominated game to one in which all South Africans are welcomed. Transformation must be fundamental and structural. Otherwise, it will not be sustainable and will amount to little more than ticking boxes and superficial gestures. The provision of facilities, equipment, coaching, and opportunities in townships is non-negotiable if we are to deepen the pool of talent that undoubtedly exists across our land. The administration and governance of the game must reflect the commitment to transformation in its people, as well as the way in which we do things. That is why acknowledging the game of cricket as a public good must be our starting point. We need to develop and articulate a clear social purpose that explains how our leadership of the game of cricket in South Africa will contribute positively to broader society. The social justice and nation building project has the potential to move us away from these superficial gestures to an all-embracing fraternal openness and inclusivity. I'm reminded of a lesson that I learned from one of my former bosses, an icon of the struggle for liberation in South Africa, Dr. Freni Jinwala, the first speaker of a democratic parliament, when I worked for her at parliament at the dawn of our democracy. We were charged with transforming one of the key institutions in our constitutional scheme. In her view, an institution could be transformed without being democratized, but she was adamant that it was not possible to have meaningful and sustainable democracy without fundamental transformation. It is a challenge that many in our society, and not just those in cricket, have failed to grasp. The unequal society around us is a reflection of this failure. We have an opportunity to correct this now, to reset, and to set an example for broader South African society. I'm sure that our Ombudsman, whose experience at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission a quarter of a century ago stands him in good stead to grasp the nettle and nurture an enabling environment, so that in decades ahead, historians can look back and record this project as a turning point in the elimination of racism and discrimination, not just in our organization, but in sport generally. Advocate Ntsebeza, on behalf of the Board of Cricket South Africa, and indeed the Cricket South Africa family, I wish strength to your arm. May I assure you of the unequivocal support of the board and say that we look forward to receiving your final report and its recommendations. And we assure you that it will receive our urgent consideration. Advocate Ntsebeza, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If I have to be formal, but there are things that you cannot teach an old dog. I'll call you Comrade Naidoo, and thank you very much for inspiring, opening address, and certainly representing the attitude of the current board, which came into existence a couple of days or weeks ago. We are very grateful to understand that we have the unwavering support of the board, which has seen our terms of reference and our rules of procedure and has okayed and sanctioned them. That having been said, Advocate, this is the time for us to take a short adjournment. We are adjourned until advised, which would be, we are now at 11:15. Can we adjourn until My advisor tells me it should be 12:15. So we'll take an hour adjournment. We adjourn until 12:15, and at that time we will call our first witnesses, who will be the scene setters, Dr. Eugenia Kulamio and Professor Andre Odla, in that fashion. We will adjourn.
I can ndingakuboleka i-laptop yam. Okay.
I'm still.
Yes, just copy from page 49 to 122.
Okay, we'll do that.
If you look at your file, yenzile yonke loo nto le.
Oh, okay. That's
These
good.
documents bendisadisfaka
Satisfactory
this morning.
report.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Nandokwenza le copy ka Dr. Gini. Is it different from what you gave me? Okay. Can aba oshanazi?
Yeah, no, because I need the. Keep this.
It doesn't have to.
Yeah, but let me do
They are reasonable, was that? Oh, it's like we interview. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we might need to go.
Oh, okay. But then why is there no bread there on this side? Why did you put in the any edition? Yeah.
Because in this.
There we go. That's like the way angle. Yeah.
What you actually need.
What's the size? They were done. Because now if I buy more about but you want to really then I'm going to suppose so I try to buy and elaborate it. Just one.
So you actually need like this is the white, this is on him. Yes. And then you actually need a second, third one. Yeah. Sorry?
The background, we're gonna have it.
Apparently they're bringing in. Oh, you want to put the CSO background here?
That's what she's saying. Maybe she's going to.
Yes. We have a background.
I thought there's coffee here. Looks like.
That sounds good.
Where is the coffee? The coffee is here, but